Hey friends, it's Laura with Laura's Handmade Haven. Welcome or welcome back. I'm so glad you joined me today. We are finishing up our Mercantile Quilt Seed blocks. Oh my goodness. This is block 6 for me. We are doing the iron and starch block today. This is what it looks like. Yay, so exciting. Okay, so today's video, I am just really going to work my way through the entire block. I'm not really sure what all I want to show and what I'm not going to show. We'll figure that out as we go along. But yeah, I have all of my fabric cut out, and again, I want to show you how I do that just in case you haven't seen the other videos and you don't want to go look. Okay, so let me grab that. Okay, so for each one of these blocks, what I have done is I use one of my 12 by 12 project totes, and I've made design boards. If you haven't checked out my video on how to make your own design boards, make sure you check that out. It's on the channel. It's an older video, but just put in design boards and it'll come up. So these fit inside that 12 by 12 box, and then I just label them with all the little alphabet squares, which again, if you haven't made those, or if you are interested in how to make those, I have a video on that too. So put in alphabet tiles and you'll be able to find that video. It's more recent, so it shouldn't be too far back in the group. Yeah, so I have all of those on the board. They're all labeled. The pieces are all clipped onto, the letters are clipped with a little binding clip, and they're all in alpha order on my board. So when I go to sew, I can just grab them off the board as I need them. Behind my sewing machine, I keep the little zippered pouch that I put all my little binding clips in. And then I also just have a teacup that I throw the little alphabet tiles in. So then as I go along, I just throw all that stuff in there and I just keep sewing and sewing and sewing. So today's video, we're just gonna go ahead and go through this block and make it up. And then we're gonna have all 6 of the Mercantile Quilt Seed blocks made. So the next video, we'll be putting them together into a quilt top that will fit my space. Okay, so once again, we are at the sewing machine. I am using a Juki DX7. I have it set on just a straight stitch at a 2.2 stitch length. I do have the extension table that goes with my Juki, and I love it very, very much. So this is the quilt block that we're working on. This entire thing is one quilt block. It is a very, it's kind of large, but it's a great size. And honestly, each one of these individually would make a super cute wall hanging, but I'm putting all 6 of them together into the quilt that is in the pattern, and I'm going to hang it above my ironing board in my craft space. So the first part of this block that we're going to be working on is this little square right here. So I'm just going to start following my pattern and making the little pieces and getting this block together. All right, looks like the first thing we get to do is make some 4 patches. And so when I make my 4 patches, I try to think about how that block is going to work. And that way I don't have to cut my thread as often. So when I'm making a 4 patch, I know that I'm going to have the dark, light, and then light, dark. So when I'm sending that through my machine, I'm going to send it through just like that. So I will make sure that when I send these through the machine, I can cut these 2 off together once I get all of them done, and go ahead and sew it together in a little 4 patch, and I don't have to cut each one apart and flip it around and do all of that. All right, so it looks like we need 4 of these. This trail of 4 little 4 patches, and I'm going to cut the first 3 pairs off, leaving that one there just so I can leave that thread uncut, and then I'm just going to take these together, leave that little jump stitch there, and sew them together. All right, so basically all we're gonna do is just sew from corner to corner here across this. And I have washi tape on my extension table because that way all I have to do is just line up that point with this line, and I can sew from corner to corner without having to mark anything. And that is a huge time saver for me. Now, like I said, I just used some washi tape because I happen to have some washi tape around that worked. But there's definitely like the stitch seam guide that you can put, the stitch seam tape rather, that you can get and put that on your machine. There's a huge roll of it. So, I mean, honestly, if you and your friends wanted to go together and buy one roll, you could do that for everyone's machines. I don't really understand why they sell a huge roll, because I have had this on my machine for a very long time. I've never had to replace it. I mean, it's starting to get worn a little bit, but not too bad, right? And not where not where I need it to line things up. So I don't know. It's kind of perplexing. If anyone knows the answer to that, leave me a comment down below and tell me why. Why do we have to have a huge roll of it when you literally need maybe, I don't know, 6 inches, if that? I don't understand. That's a glimpse into what my husband deals with on the daily. I just start thinking about things and I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. All right, so that's those pieces. And then the next thing we're gonna do is make some flying geese. So we have these cute little rectangles. I have trimmed and flipped and pressed the first set of flying geese. So I'm going to go ahead and send the second side of those through. And then I will do the same thing with the second set. All right, so I'm just going to trim off these corners and press open my flying geese, and then we're going to lay the block out and then sew it together. All right, so this is when it's really fun to have a design board, because I will be able to just lay my pieces out on this board, and then I can pick them up and sew them together as I needed. So this is what it looks like. Just take this. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys, way back when in Sunday school, I would, there were like felt boards and you could like lay out little stories and stuff. So this is kind of what it reminds me of every time I do this. It's just like, oh, I remember the little felt board things. This is actually just white fleece. So it's like like the stuff you make the no-sew blankets out of. That's what I use on my design boards, because I feel like I can use a lint roller and roll that off, and it doesn't like pull up and pill up and stuff like cotton batting will. So I kind of just prefer the, oh, that goes the wrong way. Pay attention to your pattern. Pay attention to your pattern. All right, so just giving that a nice little look here and making sure that everything is situated correctly. So to me, ultimately, I want to be able to sew this basically like a 9-patch block. So there's like, 1, 2, 3, and 3 rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all of my flying geese together first, put them back into the places, and then I will sew it together like a 9-patch block. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so here's my block again. What I will do is I will sew these 2 together, and then these 2, and then these 2, and then I'll cut it off the machine, and then I'll add on the 3rd from each single row, and then I can sew these 2 rows together and have my center block together. Now these 2 pieces here, they're hanging out right now up here because they're actually borders that go around this block. The design board is just really nice because it allows me to lay the block out and then pick the pieces up as I need them. And it just helps me make sure that nothing gets in the wrong place and that all my angles are right. As long as I pick my pieces up and flip them the way they are intended, which does sometimes still happen that it's wrong. As long as I do that, though, then it comes out right, and it's just a lot easier to keep my pieces. All right, so now this is the first two for each row, and we're going to add on the third. Again, we're just going to take them off the design board as we need them. All right, so now I have my block, all 3 rows, and all I have to do is just flip them over. I'm not going to press this or anything between. I'm just going to flip it over and sew them together. Now I am nesting the seams there are a lot of seams in this block, and they're tiny plate pieces, so just take your time, make sure you have a sharp needle. I use the Schmetz Microtech needles. I like them. Okay, so for the next piece of the block, what we're going to be doing is just like this little plug area right there. Alright, so that was this little section right here, and now we're going to be moving on to, it looks like part of the spray bottle. So, yeah, just continuing to follow the directions. I'm about 3/4 of the way through page 4. At this point, I'm kind of working on a couple different things at the same time. I'm working on steps 26 and 27 through 29. I would just say that at this point, I'm just kind of looking at the pattern and thinking, okay, what is coming next? Am I able to do something that I can sew ahead and not have to cut my thread as often? And that's just kind of where I'm at with it right now. Alright, we are on page 6 at this point, and I think we're doing the bottom of the spray bottle. So far, this pattern has been very good, very straightforward, very easy to follow. I haven't had any issues. The only thing that I did have a problem with, and that was totally my fault, not the pattern, one of the background pieces, I cut it at the wrong size. I cut it at 1 by 2 inches instead of 1 by 1.5 inches, so I did have to go and cut those all down to make sure they were right. But other than that, I haven't seen any issues with the pattern. Now, I will say that I am a picture follower, not a reader, I guess, of the pattern. So there could be some issues in the text, but for the most part, I'm just watching the I'm just watching the pictures and putting that together, and everything is going fine. So I am going to, let's see, where are we at? I am going to go ahead and assemble the center of this block. And then I will show you a couple of the border pieces, and then I'll do the rest of the border pieces off camera. And then we'll put the whole block together and we'll have the reveal of our block. So let me press all of this stuff out really well, and then we'll start assembling the center of our block. So I'm on step 46 if you have the pattern, and I'm just going to follow the pattern along and just add the little sashing pieces that we need. Looks like we're going to need 2 sashing pieces on this first block that we made, which is a really pretty star. If it really matters to you, just look at the pattern really closely to see which one you're supposed to be sewing on first. It doesn't really matter that much to me. If it's, you know, if the seams are exactly the same as the pattern, it's going to give, it's a square and it's a star and it's the same on, so it's going to give you the same result no matter. Flip these over because I want to sew on this really nice plain piece of fabric. Now make sure that you go ahead and nest those seams for your spray bottle to make sure that that spray bottle isn't wonky. And then the rest of this is just the full width of the block. So I'm just going to pinch my fingers at the other end and ease this fabric together, just the bottom and the top of the block. Alright, now this will obviously get a good press, but here's the center of our block. Yay! Right? So cute. So I'm going to put this over on the ironing board behind me, and then we're going to talk about the border real quick. And then, like I said, I'm going to do most of the border off camera, and then we will, I'll put the block together and have a reveal. So for the border, those are just like scallop pieces, right? So you have a whole bunch of these squares, and then you have 4 squares for the corners, and then 18 rectangles for the scallop borders around the sides. So you're basically just gonna like snowball 2 corners of the rectangles and the squares. Just pay attention. The rectangles, you're gonna do 2 of the corners on the same long side, and then on the squares, you're gonna do opposite corners because they're gonna go like, you know, in the corners of your scallop, so you'll want to do opposite corners on those. So I'm going to do 1 of each, and then, or maybe I'll do 2 of each, and then we will, I'll do the rest of it off camera, and then I'll start putting those together and assemble our block and have a reveal. When I'm setting up my sewing space for this, I typically do these all like chain piecing. I don't just do 2 at a time. I'll do like all, 22 of them at a time, and I'll do like one side and then I will do the other side. But for this little demonstration, I'm going to just do a couple of them. And just know that typically I would chain piece all of these. I would not just do a couple. So just, you know, just a little efficiency tip for you. I definitely wouldn't do one side and cut the thread and do the other side. That would be, whew. That would probably drive me crazy. I'm all about efficiency. All right, so I'm gonna snip this one off. And okay, so for the rectangles, like I said, you're gonna do the 2 corners on one of the long sides. It doesn't matter which long side, just the same one on each piece. Now, if you have directional fabric, you do want to kind of keep that in mind and kind of think about, you know, how you want that fabric to lay in your block. But this isn't directional. I'm really excited to get this quilt together. My husband bought me the kits for this for our anniversary in November of 2024. So it's been, you know, it hasn't been that long, I guess, but it's been a little while since he got them for me, and I'm excited to get them together. It'll be super fun. All right, so I'll just do the other 16 of these and the other 2 of the corners, and then put all of them together in the right quantities and sew those onto my block, and we will show it off. So here we have our last block for the Mercantile Quilt Seeds packets. This is the 6th block that I did. This is the starch and iron block. This was really fun to put together. In fact, this little block here, this star block would be amazing to do in another, just like by itself in a full quilt. So with these little churn dashes, of course. I mean, churn dashes are just classic and amazing, right? So I love the way this is pieced together, the iron, the way the cord comes down, and the little spray bottle here is super cute. So yeah, this is the Quilt Seeds, the Mercantile fabric line. There are 6 of these in the series. We have made all 6 of them now. So the next video, I'll be putting those together, and be sure you watch that video because I have some modifications that I'm going to need to do just because of the space on my wall. So you may want to tune in and listen to that because you may run into the same issue sometime, and it might be helpful to know what I did. So last quilt block to make, and next thing is quilt top assembly. Until next time, find joy in all you do, carve out some time for crafting and creating, and remember, it's always better when you make stuff up.